getting cleaned up. But what it did is that it compiled the most current literature to give us an explanation as to why certain neighborhoods have the disinvestment and have the cycles of violence that they have. And it would suggest that it was not because of the people who inhabit those areas, but it was because of what now is termed structural violence, policies such as what loans were made available to certain individuals in the early 1960s. What we have before you now is our sort of demonstration of the work that's being done in our community. And it's good work, but why is having, in most cases, an incremental effect, and in some cases an opposite intended effect. So this is to suggest that there is extraordinarily good work. There are regional initiatives like Agenda 360, which in 2015, Place Matters, Strive, that are then focusing on the urban core and communities in the urban core, but have not done as good of a job as really reaching in and impacting and actually getting the input from those in the urban core, right in the center. And what we propose as a result of core change and the approaches that we're taking is that not only will these existing regional initiatives benefit from an ability then to reach into the handful of neighborhoods and engage the people, the residents that are living there in the co-creation of solutions. But the second thing that core change proposes to do is to accelerate the cross-sector collaboration. Because we would suggest that the two opportunities for improvement is to engage with the citizens of the urban core as equals, not looking at them as at risk, but individuals with promise. I tell members of our group, what if we looked at those individuals who are in the urban core, who, as I said, do not look like us, perhaps, with whom we don't regularly associate, and viewed them as if we were a salesman at dealerships, and they were a customer. We would approach them, I think, with a whole different framework, a whole different mindset, a whole different mentality. So what we propose then, with this extraordinary, unprecedented compendium of strategies, tools, methods, and concepts that are under the umbrella of core change, is to use strategies that have been very effective in the for-profit business and also of recent in the social sector to engage in what our facilitators call generative listening. Generative listening. What Jeffrey Immelt said, is that what he had to learn to do with the rapid changes that were necessary in 2009 is to become a better listener. Typically when you listen with an attempt to debate, we download our own mental model. It is difficult, and you know this, those of us who are married, okay? And, yes, we're listening while you're reading the paper. No, that's not generative listening. How do you listen with such intentionality that you can see the reality through that other person's eyes? That takes work. That's hard to do. And to think that we're going to be able to do that on our own is tomfoolery. But we have two of the world's experts in doing these kinds of approaches willing to come here to Cincinnati. We have Peter Senge, who is perhaps the foremost practitioner and thinker with systems thinking. He was one of the major consultants for Procter & Gamble, has helped with Ford before they went down. But he's also been a consultant to major leaders of countries throughout the world. And he's willing to come here to help us. He has come here to help us to learn how to do systems thinking. We have David Cooperright, the co-founder of Appreciative Inquiry, willing to come here, has come here, will be coming here, February 17th and 19th, to help us then with this difficult task of not debating, not arguing, but really engaging in terms of listening. And that is hard work. That's even hard work with your children. But imagine how hard it is to be able to do that, and the need to have somebody help us in dealing with that, with someone who does not have your background and does not have your experience. So let's proceed on then to talk about what is courtship. Well, first of all, in order to really accelerate the change that's necessary, we want to get the whole system in the room. That means all the stakeholders, not just the typical heads of organizations, but as we've demonstrated as possible is that we have all stakeholders, we have heads of organizations, we have parole officers, we have prison wardens, we have CEOs, we have heads of nonprofits. Lee Clark was there back in September. He can attest to the fact that it was an extraordinary experience as far as engaging in dialogue. It's a community-wide effort, whole system in the room. We bring together then these improbable partners. And we begin then with these improbable partners to co-create systemic solutions as we look at the systems that are impacting the communities. And to really help then the community to then unleash the possibilities of the urban core. What we now understand from the research that's available is that even in those most blighted communities, there are strengths that are there. Often invisible to those of us who are not there. In some cases, invisible to the people who live there. But there are methodologies then that we can utilize to help the individuals identify their own personal strengths. And as they do that, then they understand and are in a better position to understand the strengths within the community itself. And then, we go from, instead of looking at problem solving, to how do we leverage the strengths so that we can create a new future. That is the power of the appreciative inquiry, as well as the 5 disciplines and systems thinking. Now, the primary strategy for this is going to be the summit. Now, the summit is not your typical planning where you come together, sing kumbaya, and say, I love all of you. No, the summit is a work program. It's a 3-day event. Each day building on the other, where you identify then the strengths in each other. And you identify how then to take those strengths and leverage them to address then those issues that you feel are most important in your community. It is not some hierarchy saying this is what's good for you, the community. And then the community either ignores it, and it complies with it only for a short period of time, and then dismisses it. And then we're back where we were when we began. How much money do you think has been invested in since the past 50 years in Africa? $1.5 trillion. And the Africans will tell you that things are no better if anything works. $1.5 trillion. One of the major CEOs that is a major supporter of this core change says, we've probably invested about $100 million since I've been in this city. And even though there's been some progress, it's not been commensurate with the progress that should be with the amount that's been invested. So what is this summit? Well, as I said, it's a 3-day gathering. Hundreds of residents and leaders representing every segment of the community. And the primary tool for bringing people together is appreciative inquiry. How do we then understand the strengths of people? People who you thought did not have. Now, through the AI,